Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Jace here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 3 of Deku the Shield Hero. I just wanted to greet you guys by just saying sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. So we begin. Izuku Midoriya walked past the gates that lead into the legendary UA, his eyes sparkling with awe and wonder at everything around him. Before him stood the great school that had helped to create some of the greatest heroes Japan had ever seen, some of them even returning to teach. As of right now, Izuku knew that one of them was Midnight, the heroine that had saved him years ago. A smile crossed his face as Izuku thought of the woman, hoping that he would get the chance to see her and thank her again for what she had done. As Izuku continued his short trek to the main building, he took note of several other examinees. One student, a girl with bright orange hair tied to the side, was walking not too far from Izuku with her head down as she read from a small notebook, most likely giving herself a quick refresher. Off to the side, standing in the shade of the tree, was a teen whose head was that of a black bird. He just seemed to stand there, eyes closed as if trying to find some sort of focus. While those two seemed calm and collected, Izuku also noticed that some were not handling the stress all that well. One of them, a boy whose mutation quirk had altered his body, looked like he was ready to have a panic attack. Near him were a few others who were just standing around as they watched the other students enter, biting their thumbs as they scanned the competition. Izuku also noticed one teen with wild purple hair and looking like he hadn't slept in days. This teen was walking around towards the building with his head down as if he knew he was marching towards certain failure. Then, as Izuku was watching the purple-haired teen, someone walked between them. Izuku's eyes were drawn to the student as she had long flowing brown hair that went all the way down her back. Izuku noticed that she had a sheathed sword attached to her waist. He also noticed that she had a tail, a tanuki tail to be exact. Now Izuku's eyes widened as he quickly looked up to the top of her head, seeing that she had cute tanuki ears sticking out of her hair. In all his life, he had only met one person who had those features. But it couldn't be, could it? Raphtalia? His voice came out before he realized what he had done, surprising him. A hand went to cup his mouth from saying anything else, but stopped midway as the girl came to a halt. Swiftly, she turned to look at him with a curious and puzzled gaze. The girl looked at him for only a moment before her features showed that she recognized him. Izuku watched as a hand went to her mouth as she looked down at his shield and hand, the last bit of confirmation of his identity. Izuku! Raphtalia's sudden shout startled a few people around her, but she didn't care as she leaped into the air towards the boy. Landing in front of him, Raphtalia instantly reached out with both hands to grasp at his scarred hand. Izuku felt his heart beat a little faster as he felt her fingers tracing those marks gently. I can't believe it's really you. Raphtalia's words were spoken much more softly, her tone almost musical to his ears. Blood rushed to his face, nearly causing it to become scarlet as his hand was being caressed by this very pretty girl, vaguely aware that some people were now eyeing them. One student was so focused on them that he tripped, but Izuku never pulled his hands away, just letting her slightly calloused hands touch his own until she finally let go. It's been a while, Raphtalia. Are you here to try and get into the hero program? Yep. There was a bit of a bounce in her step as Raphtalia said this, one hand going to her sword's sheath and holding it up a bit. My parents were against it at first after what, well, you know. They told me I should just join them in the family's fishing business instead. Much safer. But I eventually wore them down. They even signed me up for some swordsman lessons. Now, I'm a whole lot stronger than when we first met. Izuku's smile faded a little, a hand going to cup his chin as he looked down at the sword. That's great. But will they let you use that sword? At that, Raphtalia crossed her arms over her chest with a proud smile. According to the rules, I can as long as I made or helped make it. It's been verified and everything. As Raphtalia held up a hand, making it look like she was going into a more detailed explanation. Izuku felt something colliding with his shoulder. Out of my way, Deku! Same to you, extra! If you two just want to stand around flirting all day long, take it somewhere else! With a growl, Bakugo pushed past Raphtalia without giving her another glance as he made his way to the entrance. Well, that was rude, Izuku. Do you know that guy? Izuku nodded as he gestured for Raphtalia to follow him. Together, they moved side by side toward the building in the Ashen Blonde's wake. As they walked together, Izuku gave a brief explanation about his childhood friend. Later, Izuku sat in an auditorium along with many of the other examinees, with Kacchan seated next to him. His eyes scanned the crowd before him, spotting Raphtalia seated next to a floating girl's uniform. Before Izuku could even blink in surprise, the lights of the auditorium suddenly turned off, causing a bit of a stir among the students. But those voices quickly went silent when a spotlight suddenly illuminated the podium on the stage before them, where a new figure stood. Izuku's eyes widened as he instantly recognized the man. With the sparkling eyes of a heroic fanboy, it took everything within his power not to let out a squeal of joy. It was the great DJ hero, Present Mike, and he was in full costume. Oh, this was so much different than sitting in his room listening to the Pros radio show and imagining him wearing his trademark stylish leather outfit. The multi-directional speaker attached to his neck, the shades, and the blonde hair that shot straight up. His attempts to hold back his gushing at the pro hero failed instantly as Bakugo glared at him. Stop your damn fanboying. What's up, UA candidates? Thanks for tuning in to me, your school DJ. Come on and let me hear ya! While Present Mike's voice was brimming with energy, the hero's body twirling around as he spoke, not a single person answered his call as silence filled the room. Not that Present Mike seemed to mind as he waved a finger at those who gathered. Keeping it mellow, aren't ya? That's fine, I can dig it. So let's skip ahead to the main show and talk about how this part of the exam is going to go down. Are you ready? Yes! As Izuku shouted this, finally getting over his fanboying, he stood up swiftly while throwing his hands in the air. All the other examinees stared at him as if he had gone mad, while Kacchan hid his face in his hands. If I get the chance, I swear I'm going to kill you. After a moment, Izuku finally sat down while ignoring the muttering of the boy seated next to him. As for Present Mike, he somehow seemed to gain more energy in his voice as his smile widened. It seemed that finally having a student responding to him lit a fire within him. Like your application said, for the remainder of the exam, you rockin' boys and girls will be doing mock battles in super hip urban settings. After I drop the mic, you will all be heading to your designated battle zones. Do you dig me? At that moment, everyone looked at the cards lying in front of them. After turning them over, Izuku saw what battlefield he was about to enter. He also noticed that Bakugo had stolen a glance at his card as well. I see. They're keeping us apart so people who know each other can't work together. You're right. Our exam numbers are right next to each other. They have split into different combat areas. Bakugo glared at Izuku, his red eyes flashing in anger as he pulled his card away from the shield user. Get your eyes off my card! Damn, I was really looking forward to crushing you! Meanwhile, the large screen behind Present Mike lit up, displaying what Izuku assumed was a model of the city they would be fighting in, along with the silhouettes of 3 machines. Okay, let's check out your targets. These are the 3 type of foe villains in each battle center. You'll earn points based on their level of difficulty, so choose wisely. Your goal in this exam is to raise your score as quickly while shredding these villains like a mid-song guitar solo. But check it, make sure you're keeping things heroic. Attacking others is a big UA no-no. Just then, someone in the crowd in front of Izuku raised his hand. Excuse me, sir, but I have a question. Hit me! Another spotlight began to shine down upon the one who had spoken. The student standing up stiffly from what Izuku could tell. The person had on a very serious expression, his hair blue, and rectangular glasses. When he spoke, his tone held a great deal of annoyance. On the printout you listed 4 villains, not 3. With all respect, if this is a printing error on official UA materials, it is shameful. We are exemplary students. We expect the best from Japan's most notable school. A mistake such as this won't do. Additionally, you with the unkempt hair. The boy then turned to point a finger at Izuku, who in turn pointed a finger at himself. You've been muttering this entire time. Stop that. If you can't bother to take this exam seriously, then I suggest you leave. You're distracting the rest of us. Izuku blinked at the teen, who stared at him with an intense look. A look that really didn't bother Izuku as he raised his own hand. I also have a question. Yes, caller number 2. You said that we had to shred these villains. I guess by that you mean destroy. Is that the only way we can take them out, or are there other ways? Hey, I was talking to you! Izuku ignored the blue-haired teen, instead keeping his eyes on the pro hero, who was now grinning ear to ear as he waved them down. All right. A loud shout out to our 2 callers with their requests. To answer the first question of the night, the 4th type villain is worth 0 points. That guy is just an obstacle that we'll be throwing in your way. They're one of them in every battle center. Think of him as more of an obstacle or hurdle to avoid. It can be taken down, but there's really no point. I recommend to listeners that you ignore it and try to focus on getting to the top of the charts. And while we're on that subject, to all you rockin' boys and girls out there with non-destructive quirks, you don't need to destroy your foes. Instead, all you need to do is immobilize them for 15 seconds, and the robots will turn off all on their own. But just remember that you're on a time crunch. At that, Izuku nodded while the blue-haired student promptly sat down. This video is sponsored by Skillshare. With the services Skillshare provides, you can get access to many in-depth tutorial videos on basically anything you want to learn. Each class that they have is bound to help you with your creative endeavors. Do you want to learn how to make videos like this one? Oh, do you want to learn how to write scripts or edit audio? Skillshare has you covered, and with our link, you can have a 14-day free trial. So, what are you waiting for? Click the link now and get 14 days worth of classes free. Link in description down below. Later, Izuku found himself standing in front of the massive doorway leading onto the testing area. Now dressed in a green tracksuit, he looked at the others who would be his fellow examinees for this test as they warmed up. Thankfully, he spotted a familiar face. Izuku! Just in front of the gate was Raphtalia, now dressed in looser clothing that could allow her to move around a bit more easily. Izuku blushed as she approached him, finding her to look extremely beautiful as she smiled at him. This is so wonderful seeing you again. Yeah, what are the odds? As he smiled awkwardly at her, a thought crossed Izuku's mind. Hey, Raphtalia, would you like to team up for this exam? The Tanuki girl's smile faded for a moment as she blinked at him. Is that allowed? Izuku brought a hand to his chin as he began to think aloud. I don't think so. From what I've seen so far, they're splitting up people so that people from the same districts who might know each other won't be in the same test zone. That makes sense since they could have come up with a plan beforehand. But that's all the school has done. Nowhere does it say that it's against the rules for people in the same testing group to team up. Besides, heroes do team up when there is a situation they can't handle on their own. So perhaps we should be thinking of the test like that, like it's a mass breakout or something. But we'll only be scored on the robots we defeat. Izuku nodded at that. True, but that might be there to help discourage us from working together. The way I see it, we can work more effectively together watching each other's back. Raphtalia nodded, understanding the green-haired boy's reasoning. In exchange for possibly splitting the number of points between them, by working as a pair, they could potentially defeat more robots in the long run, while keeping the others safe. With her smile returning, Raphtalia's tail began to swish back and forth as she took a step closer to Izuku. All right then, now I can show you just how strong I've become since we last saw each other. What's going on over here? Both teens turned to see the large blue-haired teen walking toward them, chopping his arm in a robotic manner. You again? Are you trying to mess up our fellow examinees? Izuku blinked while Raphtalia gave the blue-haired teen a sour look. But before either of them could say anything, the gates opened up to reveal a fall city inside. Let's go! Let's go! What are you all standing around for? There are no countdowns in real life. At President Mike's words, the group of students rushed into the city, ready to destroy some robots. Once they got to the first intersection, Izuku and Raphtalia broke away from the group. Dashing down the street, they soon came upon a group of 3 one-pointer robots. When he saw them, Izuku held up his shield. Two-headed black dog shield! Instantly, his small shield transformed into the form it gained after Izuku had managed to gain some fur from the pro hero hound dog. In a flash of green light, his shield became larger and darker in color, with 2 dog heads coming out from the top. After it finished changing, one of the one-pointers attacked him in its metal arm, striking the shield. However, it did not push him back, as Izuku stood his ground before the dog heads extended their necks out to bite at the machine. As the twin jaws held tight to the machine's metal skin, Raphtalia appeared behind it with her sword drawn. With a single slash, she cut the robot in 2 before vanishing again before Izuku's eyes. Wow, she can turn invisible? How does that work? Can she do other things like... Izuku's thoughts were cut short as he saw Raphtalia cut down her second robot. However, before she could turn invisible again, the third robot was already racing towards her. Airstrike shield! As Raphtalia turned to see the attack coming her way, a green barrier shaped like a shield appeared between her and the robot. The one-pointer hit it with all its might, knocking it back. It was damaged, but not done for. Shield prison! With a grin, Izuku watched as many shields appeared around the one-pointer to form a sphere before chains wrapped around it. Izuku watched, listening as the machine tried over and over to force its way out. But after several long seconds, it finally gave up. Once it became silent, Izuku deactivated the shield prison to see that, indeed, the robot was deactivated. Grinning at each other, the two continued to move through the city. Very quickly, they fell into a routine. Izuku would use his shield to bite and damage the robots, drawing their attention while Raphtalia sliced through them with her sword. Whenever they were outnumbered, Izuku would use his shield prison to capture 1 or 2 of them when he could, trapping them until they deactivated, while Raphtalia ended up destroying more with her skills, thus getting ahead in points. Izuku was getting his fair share, as on occasion his 2-headed dog bite shield did take down a few when the heads got a good hit on their necks. As the minutes ticked by, Izuku began to notice that some of the other examinees were starting to get worn out or were in over their heads. More than once, they came across someone who was knocked on their ass looking up at a giant machine ready to attack. These attacks never came. However, as a giant green shield blocked the attack before Raphtalia's blade finished it off. But that was nothing compared to what happened next. Both hero hopefuls saw a beam of light being shot down the street, catching their attention. Looking down from where it came from, they saw a blonde-haired boy surrounded by several 3-point robots. What made it worse was that it appeared that the boy was in no shape to defend himself, as all he seemed to do was clutch at his stomach. Without wasting a second, the two leaped into action as the shield prison enclosed around the blonde. With the examinee protected within the barrier, Izuku and Raphtalia rushed in as the 3-pointers turned to attack. Izuku wielded his shield and remained in front as several rubber bullets were fired at him. His shield began to block them, as Raphtalia jumped into the air behind him. As she fell, her sword was swung downward to cut one of the 3-pointers' heads in 2. Without missing a beat, she swung to cut the next one, while Izuku moved behind her to block another attack. The twin dog heads shot forth from the shield, biting the robot while Raphtalia moved out from behind Midoriya to cut down another 3-pointer. When the shield prison finally deactivated, the blonde boy saw the pair standing over the wreckage of the robots as they caught their breaths. Unbeknownst to the two hero hopefuls, their actions as well as other students were being watched by the teaching staff of UA. One of those teachers was none other than Midnight, who eyed the pair's efforts with a smile. It had been no mere coincidence that the two had been placed within the same testing ground. Midnight had recognized them both from the brave little hero and the young girl the moment she had seen their applications into the hero course. As she had watched them fight and aid each other, something that made her heart fluttering with excitement. There was a bit of regret that she hadn't tried to get them in on special recommendation. It would have been a simple manner to get them in. Then she would have gotten a front row seat to watch their delectable interactions and gotten to make some of her own comments to further fluster them. Though, to be fair, she had not seen nor heard from them since that day. So there, nominating them when she didn't really know what they were capable of wouldn't have been a good idea. Still, it's been worth cashing in the several favors just to make sure they would be together for this. And as Nezu pressed the large button to unleash the zero-pointer, she knew that they would continue to impress her. Thank you all for sticking around, and I hope that you enjoyed. Before you leave, we would just like to let you know that We the Celestials has many other channels for your entertainment and viewing purposes. All the information you'll need is right below here in the description, so feel free to check out all the other incredible projects our team creates. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be posted in the description down below. That's all for today's video, so goodbye and have a divine day.